And we are live.
All right, thank you. It is time to call the March 7th, 2022 Governing Council meeting to order. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Item 1.02, a roll call vote to establish a quorum. Ms. Morrow Reel.
Thank you. Afton,
Kenny Edgar here.
Bayless, Brentwood,
Melissa Naird here.
Clayton,
Gary Pearson here.
Ferguson Florissant, Hancock Place.
Here.
Your name?
Jennifer Kosman.
Hazelwood. Hazelwood.
Zella Williams here.
Jennings.
John Shaleris here.
Kirkwood.
Darnell Frost present.
Ladue.
Keisha Lee present.
Lindbergh.
Jennifer Miller present.
Maplewood Richmond Heights.
Rachel Goldsman present.
Melville.
Larry Felton present.
Patrick McKelvey present.
Normandy. Parkway.
Here, Debbie Hopper.
Pattonville.
Here, Mary Kay Campbell.
Brittner. Riverview Gardens, Veronica's here. Rockwood.
Lynn Midyat, Rockwood here.
Penny DeGarden present.
Who was that? Oh, okay. I have you, Penny. Thank you. Rockwood, and then University City.
Joanne Suda present.
Valley Park.
Adam Watson here.
Webster Groves.
Alex Kahn present.
Thank you.
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 2.01. Dr. Keenan, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. Kenny Edgar Afton.
And a second?
Second, Darnell Frost Kirkwood.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 And any nays? All right, motion approved. Item 3.01, do we have a motion to approve the meetings from the December 6th, 2021 Governing Council meeting?
Larry Felton, still moved.
Second by Suda, University City.
All right, any changes needed to be made to that or questions? All right, those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. All right, motion approved. All right, item 4.01 is our time for public speakers. There were no submissions tonight, so we will move on to item 5.01, PAC updates. And I believe that's Dr. Kamisha Carter.
Good evening. I want to give Rita a minute to pull up our PowerPoint. Greetings and salutations. This is our report to the Governing Council on March the 7th, 2022. I am Dr. Kamisha Carter. Our Executive Board Committee members, next slide please, are here. We have Rob Eaton from the Rittner School District. He is our Vice President. And we also have Christina Blankenship, next slide please, as our recording secretary. Thank you for being here and being present. Next slide, please. We have Tonight, we want to discuss with you guys about our PAC findings. We have been going strong since September of 2021, and we have a couple of findings that we would like you guys to help us with as governing council. Next slide, please. The top 3 items parents are concerned about are the partnering districts, PAC representation in those partnering districts, and our parents' voice. Next slide, please. Partner districts. The SSD PAC would like more collaborations between the partnering districts and SSD. We understand that you guys talk, but we need a more authentic conversation between the district and SSD. Getting to know your families in your district is helping SSD better to serve our students, because they are a student of your partner district, then they get services from SSD and not the other way around. So when we talk to you about our child, we have to talk to you as they are a student of your district, then a child who receives services from SSD. So a more authentic conversation needs to happen in our eyes as parents, because if it does not happen, then the only person that loses is that child. So that's why we're looking for the partnering districts to have a little bit more advocacy in practice. What does that look like? Well, let us talk to you. Let us talk to you from the local PAC perspective. Let us talk to you as a SSD PAC. Come to our meetings, see what we discuss, see what we talk about, because our child is a product of your district, and we want to make sure that our child or children or students and or families have what they need from you, the partner district. Next slide, please. Currently, the following districts do not have representation: Ackerman, Bayless, Hancock Place, New Honor, Northview, Riverview Gardens, University City, and Webster Grove. New Honor. Yeah, that's a part of the SSD PAC. SSD schools. So what does that mean for students and families without representation from their local PAC families? That means that most oftentimes families are not being really heard. That also means that families are out there struggling, not having assistance. Working with the SSD PAC and working with SSD PETA, Parent Education and Diversity and Awareness, they get information, valuable information as such. How to navigate the IEP. What questions do you need to advocate for your child? What does social and emotional learning looks like for a child who has low incident to no incident of services? What are the things that my child needs if they are receiving services for AU, or are they receiving services for different other different diagnoses, developmental delay diagnoses? That's what we are asking. We're asking you to help us identify families so that we can be able to service those families and service that district. Next slide, please. Parents' voice. In your districts, we are asking that time in district meetings to hear parents' voice outside the public comments. Number 1, through a report from the local PAC as an agenda item. You have local PACs in your districts. We have meetings monthly, and we have concerns, we have situations, and we have triumphs that you should be aware of that is going on under your district auspices. Also, know your families. Collaborate with us. Collaborate with us more than a survey that you need for Title I, Title III, Title VI, Title IX, or you need to get this bond issue, so you want to talk to us. No, talk to us before that. Talk to us when we are needing services. Talk to us when we need from the school, from the district, not from SSD. Talk to us when we want to bring our children to community involvement programs and there's no accessibility. Talk to us. That's what we're asking. So at this juncture, we would like to entertain any questions about my report. Next slide. Oh, go back one more. I said that, okay. Any questions?
May I ask a question? This is Debbie Hopper.
Absolutely.
Parkway, hi.
Hi.
I'm interested in hearing from some of the other school districts about how they incorporate the PACs to their agenda items on their board meetings, if at all. Does any other school districts have a regular report at a board meeting by their PAC?
Ms. Hopper, my name is Rob Eaton. I am the vice president from SSD's PAC, but I'm also Rittner's PAC president. And I know that Penny DeGarden's on here and doesn't have much of a voice, so I will speak to that for us. So each board meeting, there is a line item for SSD reports. And so whether that is our governing council representative, if she speaks, or if I speak on behalf of the PAC and SSD's PAC and our PAC, so there's times I will combine the two reports into one, but we give a report on a monthly basis on following up from both the SSD and our individual PACs. And then like this Thursday night, because I will be giving our report, and it'll include the information from the governing council meetings. So there's every month a place on our agenda for SSD report.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob, for giving that.
I have a question for it. This is Jennifer at Hancock. I actually have a question. Could I hear from anyone that could give us ideas in how we get parents involved?
I would like to defer that question to our recording secretary, Christina Blankenship, who has been the Clayton PAC Ed president for the last several years, who has a strong local PAC. Christina.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Carter. Each district is unique, and even within a district, if you're a larger district or a smaller district, there's various different considerations. Clayton is a relatively small district, but there are very many nuances to our families on our district. So I've been the president of the Clayton PAC Ed for the last decade, and membership will ebb and flow as parents have interest or have capacity for involvement. Because we have children with disabilities and we work and life happens. So it is not always maybe as consistent as you see in PTOs. A way to get parents involved is to send, initially, if you don't have a local PAC in your district, I would coordinate with the PETA department, because part of their mission is to help establish and grow local PACs. So you might want to start there to find out if they have been in discussions with parents currently there regarding the establishment of a PAC, if they have had parents from your district involved in the Parent Leadership Institute that the PETA department puts on. That could be a great fertile ground there, because those parents want to be involved and they're interested and they're getting training and information. Also, if you have a current representative on the SSD PAC, coordinate and collaborate with them. And then, send out an email targeting families of students with IEPs and tell them that you want to start a PAC, you know, a local PAC in your district, that you as board members are interested in hearing from them and collaborating with them. You may also want to connect in our SSD liaison in our district, who is also our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, is very involved in the Clayton PAC Ed. I mean, we have regular meetings for planning and coordination, and we also work hand in hand with our SSD director assigned to Clayton as well. So those are kind of some avenues to find out, you know, where the fertile ground is, parents that are already interested and involved, and then also connecting with those resources like your SSD liaison, your SSD director. You know, your liaison is from your district, so that'd be like our Clayton person, and connect with them, and then, you know, put the call out there to parents that you want to hear from them. A lot of times you can start with listening sessions. Our parents love to attend listening sessions, to connect with our board members, to connect with our administrators, to share and collaborate.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Also, you can invite the executive committee. Someone from the executive committee will come out and talk to your district. Parent-teacher conferences, parent-teacher nights, back to school events. We will come out and we will help you build your local PAC.
Okay, thank you. Great ideas. Thanks.
You're welcome.
This is Veronica of Riverview Gardens. We at one time had a very, very, very active PAC. And so I reached out to the Chad Lent, who is over SSD in our district. And he did, he's in the process of submitting some names to me that I can forward on to you all. But I am very interested in trying to get our PAC back going the way that it was with SSD. And I'll be checking with the young lady that's actually over our district PAC to see what type of outreach they've been doing to draw in parents of students that have IEPs.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Rio.
Sure,
We appreciate
sure.
it.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Ms. Miller, that would conclude my report.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to it every quarter. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Rita, I had just a housekeeping item to check. Miss Kohler kept getting kicked off the Zoom earlier, but she is here. So she wanted to make sure that that was marked for Bayless on the attendance sheet.
Yes, I have her down.
All right, thank you. All right, moving
Also,
on.
Ferguson Florissant has logged on.
Okay.
Mr.
All
Martin.
right. Moving on to item 6.01, our public review committee update, and that will be Ms. Lee and Mr. Felton.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to give a quick update to where we are with the 2022 Public Review Committee. Read the next slide, please. So just a brief introduction to, you know, every 3 or 4 years, we ask for volunteers from this body of the SSD Governing Council, and we're not just doing that by happenstance. The Public Review Committee is a part of state statute, revised statute 162.858, that requires that this body convene every 4 years and be consistent of the Parent Advisory Council or the PAC, members of the Governing Council, as well as appointees from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, and I won't read it to you, the statute sets forth exactly what we are supposed to conduct a thorough review of. And we have been doing so since September of 2021. Next slide, please. So again, the purpose and goal of the Public Review Committee is to determine whether SSD is fulfilling its mandate with respect to the articulated areas that are defined in the document and in the state statute. It also applies to career and technical education, that would typically fall under delivery of service. But SSD, as we know, has the authority over career and technical education for St. Louis County. Next slide, please. So based upon those assumptions, the 22 PRC will focus our review on investigating all of the bulleted items as listed on the slide. Give you a moment to review, although it should be in your packets as well. Next slide. So I just want to introduce who the committee members are on the current PRC. The DESE appointees are Dr. Jenny Bender, Dr. Andrew Stewart, and Dr. Marianne Tegens. Next slide. The governing council appointees are myself, Keisha Lee, representing Ladue School District, Mr. Larry Felton, who represents the Melville School District, and Dr. Sheila Powell Walker, who represents Ferguson Florissant School District. Next slide. We also have Parent Advisory Council appointees, and those are Dr. Kamisha Carter, Mr. Rob Eden, and Ms. Erica Williams. Next slide. So this is just a little progress to date of where we are and what we have done, the presentations that we have received, and the documents we have reviewed. Next slide. So beginning back in September, on October 4th, as September 20th, October 4th, and October 20th, we held virtual meetings to try and plan for how we would attack the current PRC. We developed our strategy to make sure that we had a quorum at each meeting. A quorum for us consists of one member of each of the 3 appointed groups. We set our schedule, determined which presentations we wanted to see and the speakers, as well as had the opportunity to request documents. Next slide. On November 15th of 2021, we had presentations by Dr. Molly Bolton on the Continuous School Improvement Plan and CSIP presentation, excuse me, as well as Chiquita McRiddle, who presented on the SSD Partnership Agreement. Next slide. On November 29th, we had presentations from Dr. Michael Macklin on the Equity Framework, as well as Kevin Andert on the Career Technical Education and Adult Education presentations. Next slide. On November 30th, as well as on December 9th, the entire body of the PRC split into 2 groups, and we toured the SSD schools in North County. So we toured North Technical High School, Northview High School, as well as Ackerman School. Next slide. On December 7th, we had presentations by Jennifer Henry on the employee engagement, as well as Dan Kelly on human resources. Next slide. On January the 3rd, we had a compliance presentation by Susan Henry, as well as a PETA presentation by Latricia Morgan. Next slide, please. On January, what's going on? Oh, okay. On January 12th, we had the PRC we presented to the SSD Parent Advisory Council, or PAC. Next slide. And then on January 31st, we had a presentation by Wendy Pendergrass on the impact of the pandemic on special school district. Next slide. On February 8th, we presented to the SSD Board of Education. Next slide. And then on February 23rd, there was a budget presentation by Dr. Jeff Hogg. Next slide. On February 25th, we presented also to the SSD Regional Superintendents Meeting. Next slide. And here we are today presenting to the SSD Governing Council. Next slide. Are there any questions? We have received, okay, so that concludes the presentation, but we have received all of the presentations that have been requested to date. As we are now, we're in the planning phase of how we will divide ourselves up into subgroups and begin to work on our review for recommendations. That will take us to the end of the school year, most likely, when we will have our completed report. So if there are no questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, it looks good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And we will move on to item 6.02, our joint budget workshop, and Dr. Hogg will present on the preparation of next year's budget.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Governing Council. My name is Jeff Hogg. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Special School District. Next slide, please, Rita. And again, just the presentation of this evening will be to discuss the current budget process, revenues, expenditures, and then requested additional staffing. Next slide, please. As we've talked about, our FY23 budget goals were created by our budget committee. The first one is equity, and that is key and a cornerstone of the work we've been doing this year. Every student, regardless of learning ability or socioeconomic status, has access to the services they need to succeed. And we've really looked at that with our diversity and equity, Dr. Macklin, the work he's done this year, and really making that part of our mission. The other three, staffing, will continue to provide staffing at levels to support students. Goal 3, curricular support, and then goal 4, facilities, will continue to provide educational environment that is great for our students. Next slide, please. And so we have major budget revenues, major budget assumptions. 2022 is a non-reassessment year. So when you have a reassessment year, you'll see a greater increase in your local tax revenue for that year. With it being a non-reassessment year, we're projecting, there'll still be an increase, but we're projecting a much smaller increase of about 2 to 3 million in local revenue. DESE has indicated the foundation formula will be fully funded. They're not going to add to that at this point, but it will be fully funded. Prop C, as you guys all know, has been incredibly strong this year. Districts have seen an increase in sales tax and they project that to continue. However, even with some of the money that they have at the state right now, transportation will not increase, and thus it'll remain woefully underfunded by the state. Investment earnings, they're increasing slightly. So we'll see a little uptick in those next year, but they're not anywhere near pre-pandemic levels. And then SSD will see an approximate 4 to 5 million in Medicaid revenues over the next year. Next slide, please. And so you'll see our budget here. If you look at column that says budget FY22, you'll see $322 million. We are expecting about 14 million less than that this year. Some of you, as we were part of that Blankenship finding, in which it talked about rolling back a tax rate or not being able to charge more than the voter approved tax rate. So we're going to see a decrease in that towards the end of the year. That was our original budget amount. So that 483 at the bottom, probably be closer to $469 million. And so then when you see FY23, we'll show a slight increase in local revenue, a slight increase in state revenue, and then we'll show an increase in that federal revenue for the Medicaid. So even though it looks like we are decreasing, we'll project a little bit of an increase after we roll back our numbers for this year of 476 million. So we're projecting we'll have about 7 million more in income next year than we will end up with this year. Next slide, please. And then expenditures. We are going to enter our second year of negotiated rates with our unions. And so we know that that's a 3.5% to 4% increase for that second year. So we'll continue to monitor that, the retirements and the vacancies as well. But we know the increase in salaries for this next year. We have a 3 to 5% increase in benefits. Our purchase services are up for the year. Purchase services are trainings, travel, different things along those lines. We couldn't do that last year. And so we're seeing an increase in purchase services because we're able to do a lot more trainings, have a lot more professional development. And then our supplies are down a little bit for this year. we'll watch those as we go through the remainder of the year. And then again, for next year, we will continue with our disproportionality requirement, which is 15% or approximately $5.5 million of our Part B funding. And I'll touch on that here in a minute. Next slide, please. So as you can see, our expenditures for this current year budget FY22 are projected at $503 million. And then next year with some increases, we're projecting it at 508. We know though that there is a little bit of room in the, a little bit of room in the fringe benefits. As you can see, we have projected 112. The year prior was 101. We also know it's a little bit low because during the pandemic, people weren't able to go to the doctor and get to the hospital. So we're projecting our fringe benefits to go up a little bit for this year and then for next year as well. So you'll see 508,000 or 508 million compared to 503 million of this year. Next slide, please. And then how did we get to, or how did we look at expenditures and provide budgets? So we've always looked at it in three different ways. The first is for all, that's our 22 partner districts. And then for some, which is our 11 districts that receive disproportionality money. And then we looked at 8 districts with a higher distress community index. And I'll talk about those 3 areas as we go. But just to remind you, we do use a zero-based budgeting model. It allows the partner districts and our schools to really have their goals drive the budget as opposed to the budget drive the goals. So we're able to support them with what they need as opposed to limiting them with just providing sets amount of money. Next slide, please. And so disproportionality, these are our tier 2. So these are our 11 schools. But really it's the first way to receive or to be identified for disproportionality is the over-identification or disproportionate representation by race of students with disabilities. Or the second way is suspension and expulsion rates. And really that's data disaggregated by race or ethnicity to determine if significant discrepancies are occurring either in suspensions or expulsions. So if you are one of the districts designated of going over that threshold, then we provide part of our Part B money to you. And then that's not spent on special education students, it's spent on general education students, general population students to help where students aren't then over-identified. Next slide, please. And those are our 11 schools who receive disproportionate funding. And next slide, please. And then this grid in front of you just kind of shows you the breakdown. We don't tell districts how to use disproportionate money. We absolutely work with them. Our directors will work with the district liaisons and the district administration to decide what that looks like. But I wanted to show you where some school districts are heavier on full-time employees or staffing, and other districts are heavier on programs. So if you look at Hazelwood, they have 10 employees, whereas Rockwood with a similar budget doesn't have any. They spend theirs on supplies and programs. So it's what best suits the district, and we really work to support them, and we let them drive what interventions they want to use. Next slide, please. And then tier 3, there are high needs districts. Those are those 8 districts, and we really try to develop frameworks with them. And we also look at a number of economic factors, but we also look at the rates of special education identification and then rates of proficiency in reading. And then in collaboration with those tier 3 schools, we really work to see what we can do to provide extra support. So we look at achievement data, we look at instructional audits, learning initiatives, and then see if we can provide some extra supports for that. For example, there were a couple schools with the tier 2 who through requests, we're going to request much more than their disproportionate budget. Disproportionate budget is provided on a per pupil basis. But because they are not only tier 2, but tier 3, and they were going to use some of the money for tier 2 work, we were able to allow them to overexpend their budget because we know there'll be a little bit of carryover, but that's one way that our tier 3 schools are provided some extra support. Also, if it doesn't fall into the disproportionality because there's a certain way or there's a certain requirement to receive disproportionate funds, has to meet certain criteria. If it doesn't meet those criteria, then we're able to support that. One of the districts we were able to provide an extra teacher because the teacher was going to split between 2 buildings. And those 2 buildings are located incredibly close to each other. So we knew by doing that, we'd be able to support more kids in a tier 3 setting. Next slide, please. And then here are our tier 3 districts. Next slide, please. And so just to kind of give you a timeline, we started working with our directors and administrators in October. Our executive directors met with the administrators in that October, November, and December timeframe. Our administrators and directors presented to our cabinet in December, took that evaluation feedback back, reworked, tweaked their budget presentation, and then directors presented to our cabinet again, but also the partner district cabinet and superintendents in January. So they had plenty of opportunity to walk through and talk through the budgets and then present that in front of not only us, but the partner district administration as well, so that everybody was on the same page with requests. Next slide, please. And then there were 3 ways that administrators or partner district directors could request, and that was in staffing, it was in supplies, and it was other payroll costs. So again, supplies, other payroll costs were approved. Examples of that: books, furniture, tools. A lot of the extra payroll cost is your summer training or substitute teachers during the year, professional development, and then staffing. When partner districts requested staffing, we looked at it in 3 different ways, 2 of which I've already talked about. Did it fit in their disproportionality budget, or was it a tier 3 justification? The other was a 17-to-1 caseload ratio. And so we have a program that runs caseload ratio. And if that caseload ratio is at 17-to-1, it doesn't necessarily mean that another teacher will be added. What it does is it kind of gets us looking at that district, the breakdown of teachers, and do we need to add there? So we really look at 17-to-1 as an indicator of a higher caseload. Doesn't necessarily mean that if it's over 17-to-1, that district will get a teacher. So those are the 3 ways we looked at including or approving staffing. Next slide, please. And then just wanted to show you over the last couple of years, you'll see in 2020, 2021, there were 80 additional staff members with a reduction of 29. And then this last year, we added 93 with a reduction of 39. So we've added 173 and a half teachers over the last couple of years with a reduction of 68. And then you can see kind of there how they were broken down. You'll see 35 teachers, 3 speech pathologists, 2 social workers were added directly to the partner districts. But then when we talk about 36 FTEs in those roles that you can see there, they support the teachers in the partner districts. So even though they weren't added directly to it, they were added to support. So we were adding quite a few to support our partner districts as well. Next slide, please. And then this brings us to our staffing requests for this year. And you'll see that 14 teachers were approved, 23 paras, 2 coordinators and 2 SLPs in the partner district. And then you'll see some of the positions in the SSD schools as well. Now, just because 14 were approved, there were more that were requested. However, they did not meet that criteria we talked about already. Some paras were added because we had 13 paras actually were added because we added them this year, but we added them as 1-year contracts. So because they were filled, we added them for next year. If school districts had open para positions and they requested paras, they did not necessarily get additional paras. We'd like all our partner districts to fill their para positions prior to requesting more. So we'll continue to keep an eye on and monitor that as well. Next slide, please. And so then you'll see that a total additional staff of 53 were requested for this year at 3.6 million, with a total reduction of 6 at this point. There may be a few more reductions as we go, but we really do that through attrition. So we'll bring that back to you we'll bring those final numbers back to you in June. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
This is Debbie Hopper from Parkway. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Would you mind running through slide on page 11, the disproportionality projections tier 2 for these schools in a little bit more detail, indulging me if you would for a moment, explaining is it how the percent is arrived at? Do you get the number of students first and then a percent, or percent and then the number, the count, first of all?
Okay. Yeah.
And then across what each of those columns stand for. There's some acronyms I'm not familiar with.
Sure. Perfect. So if you see the fourth column over count to allocate, that's the number of students. And then basically what we do is we start with that 5.8 million at the top. We back out, and you'll see in the bottom right corner, 835,000 for SSD. We back that out, and that gets us a total of 5.023 million. And then we just divide that by student percentage. And so that's how Ferg Floor, they are allocated 11.4% of that. So they receive 571,000. Hazelwood is 17% or 17.8%. So they receive 896. So it really is based on a per pupil average. And so then that CCEIS is early intervention services. That's just the title. That's the money they're going to get there. And then the titles across on the right side there, starting with MTSS, multi-tiered support, teachers, paras, interventionist coach, and so on. And then when you get to the remaining column, that is the amount of money remaining after expenditures on FTEs. So you'll see that Ferg Floor starts with 571,000. They have 4 employees. We put a price to each one, and then we subtract that from the 571. And then that means they have 211,000 to still spend on projects and programs for disproportionality as well. You'll see some of the red numbers on there. So the first year and a half, or the first 2 years, what we did, we hired, when I say we, special school district, hired the individual. And what we've done is we've started telling other districts, our partner districts, that you have this money, we will reimburse you. Go ahead and hire what you need as long as it's within budget. So you'll see the red there for Hazelwood. We've hired 4 that we employ, and then those red ones are items that they are positions that they've hired that they now bill us back for. So they pay them, send us what it costs to employ that person, and we send them money out of our Dispro funds.
And what does SLP stand for in one of the columns?
Speech language pathologist.
Okay.
Hi, Joanne Suda from U City. Can you talk about why there's a negative number for University City?
Yes, that is one of the school districts that we were talking about that we allowed to expend a little bit more than their budget. their 2 people and the social worker come up to more than that $111,000. So if you look in the main column where they have the money, the $111,000 is those 2 people are over that $111,000 along with their supplies, projects, programs. But because they are tier 3 and they're using it for disproportionality, we allow them to expend a little bit more because we know there's going to be carryover. We know that entire $5.8 million isn't going to be spent each year. And we know we're going to carry some over, so we allow them to do that.
Thank you.
Kevin Martin, FERC Floor. I have a question for you, Jeff. So just for clarification's sake, this is this year's Dispro money, not next year's budget, or is that next year's budget? Sorry if I missed that.
This is going into next year. Some of those new positions have been added and requested as we're going.
Got it. And for this year's budget, how much do you expect to be rolled over as you talk about rollover from the Dispro funds or unspent out of the 5 million some?
So with our spending, the majority of this is FTEs. So we had a meeting the other day and we had spent about 2.75 million, but that was about halfway through the year. So we won't spend the entire 5. I would say if I were predicting at this point, finishing out the FTEs, finishing out the supplies, we'll probably finish in that 4 to 4.5 range. And so then we'll have some carryover into that next year. And
so does that,
go ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then what we do with that is that's not on a per pupil basis. The carryover then goes on to a per need basis. And that's where we get into being able to provide more money for University City or Jennings.
So yeah, if it starts in Dispro, does it stay in Dispro or does it move just to the general operating budget for rollover?
No, this is pure refund money. So this is part B. We have to show that we spent it before we're refunded.
Got it. Thank you.
So Jeff, this is Lynn Mediat, Rockwood. If a district moves out of disproportionality status, what happens to the positions that they hired or you hired to support that district?
Yeah, at that point, those positions would no longer exist. We would preemptively work on that so that it would not be, it wouldn't be all of a sudden that somebody would be without a job. If that were going to happen, we would know that would happen progressively. But we do let the people know in those positions that, it is from year to year. Now, disproportionality has been around for a couple of years and we don't see it ending for a few more years at least. So we know those positions will be there, but that would be something we would work either with the partner district or that person to help them get a job so that they weren't without one.
And so that's communicated to the districts? Because did you say that some districts hire the staff and then SSD hires some?
Yes, and so when we do that, they know that position is funded as long as the money is available. And so if Desi would say that we don't have to do the disproportionality, or like you just said, a school would work their way out of disproportionality, then that money wouldn't be there. So that position wouldn't be there.
So that's kind of a catch-2 for the districts, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's where you want to go because
Right.
That's where we want it to be. However, it would mean that we would need to shift or help people find jobs.
Right.
To be clear, around disproportionality, it's a federal definition. It is determined through the federal government and then it's passed down through the states. And it's been around for about 10, 15 years now. So it really typically is used for the purposes that most of our districts are utilizing them for social emotional learning, restorative practices, those type of things. The key is really to start to embed it into your system so that you can show some positive results. We do say, and we've said this for the last 2 years, that this is you have to look at this as grant funding. So as a grant, when the grant goes away, we have to determine how that is. But we'll know by that time, if we are starting to see some, which is positive growth. And I see what you mean with Lynn, it's a catch-22 because you do good things. And then now they are saying is basically it's kind of set up to say, if you're doing good things, then the district has, if it wants to keep it up, then typically that's how grants are funded.
So it takes a lot of thought on how you want to use for a district, how they want to use that money and where they see themselves 2 years, 3 years down the line. Yeah.
Yeah. And every district is very thoughtful around it. And it keeps evolving, because there's new leadership in some cases, there's new thought processes, and getting them stronger around what do they really want to focus in on to change the results of their disproportionality.
Sorry, I had another question. Lynn sparked me. For over the last 5 years, how many of these 11 districts have actually changed to not be on this list?
None have changed.
Got it. So we have some work to do.
Yes, we do.
This is Debbie Hopper from Parkway again. I have another question too, sparking from that. So I see that Rockwood and Riverview have 0 staff, right, allocated under this disproportionality projection. So could you explain that? What does that mean?
They have decided to utilize their staff for professional development, for outside, software systems. Also, they're utilizing some different aspects like curriculum, but they're not utilizing staff at this point.
Okay, so they still have the money available to use, but this particular chart is just showing the dollars used for staff specifically.
No, this is the money that all districts receive, and they only utilize it for however they need to. So some of them are using staff. That's what those numbers are onto the right-hand side. That's the number of staff some of those districts are actually hiring. But some of the staff that show no, they are utilizing their funds for other things. So Rockwood in particular, they're doing in Parkway even is Cherokee Harley, also curriculum, software, other support systems, and paying for staff to go to professional development conferences, those type of things. Just to be clear, we don't decide this. This is all decided on the schools. So the school districts are the ones that are really at the table to decide what's best to meet their needs.
But the numbers in each of the rows under the columns, that's specifically teachers?
Some are speech language pathologists, some of them are psychologists, some of them are behavior specialists, some are social workers, and then there's some of them are actual teachers. So it might be intervention teacher, might be instructional coach, might be somebody under that auspice of teachers.
Okay, so just taking Parkway, for example, where it says total 6, that means that we've got 6 staff identified in these particular categories across the way. At a cost, at whatever the cost is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have remaining of our $870,000, we have $330,000 remaining that's used in other ways, which Dr. Keenan just alluded to.
Yes. And I would recommend that you guys, bringing this back and requesting or asking for, a presentation on this. I know directors of special ed are more than willing to, and a lot of these, the disproportionality plan is really not developed by the special ed director, it's by the liaison. So Dr. Matheson, could help and support, kind of outline Parkway to your board, what you're actually utilizing and what's the plan.
It might be helpful to actually go through a calculation of how disproportionality is determined. It's pretty complex, as I recall. So that that might be helpful at one of our future meetings.
It's calculated through different categories, but the state DESE does do an analysis on it, which is set by the federal government. I mean, I agree, Lynn, that you probably should understand that piece of it, but I think that this would be really beneficial for you guys to have this in your district and recommend that you have a presentation to the boards and talking about how it's determined, but also talking how each one of you are deciding how you're utilizing your funds.
That's a great suggestion. That's probably the way to go.
Can this be sent to us? This sheet that you just showed, can that be sent to us?
It's in your budget presentation.
Good. Okay, I'll check it. Okay, thank you.
And we will give all the directors that are identified a heads up that there might be some requests, but also the liaison. So really this is a district initiative. So just to, we are helping out where we can, and we want to make sure that we're supporting these initiatives because it benefits all. And when you benefit all students, especially your special needs students, then it'll benefit all. But these dollars are really to be utilized for students who are not identified as special ed. So these are to be utilized for funds for students who are in the gen ed, and that, the gen ed is supporting those pieces of it. So I think that, we will let all of the directors know and the liaisons know that we discussed this last night. So that they're prepared if there's a request from the board to be able to make sure that there is a presentation to the board on how you're utilizing the overall disproportionality funds.
Thank you.
Jennifer, if I have one more question for Jeff and then I'm done, I promise. Switching to capital outlay, did you explain what the $12 million increase from this fiscal year you anticipated to be for this upcoming budget? Why increasing from 15 million to 27 million?
So the 15 million, so when you look at the 13.8 and then the 15.2, those are actual expenditures over the course of those years. And then we're budgeting about 21 to 22 each year. We bumped that up to the 27 this year because we knew we had some funds left over in our capital fund account that we could use. And we use that on audiology. We built audiology out of an old gym so that they could have their own space. We purchased some land and then we're redoing our bridges. So that 27 is a one-time expenditure for that amount, but generally it's in that $21 million range there.
Thank you.
One other thing, because we had presented earlier in the year that we were looking at providing, we had presented to our school board that we wanted to make sure that all of our schools were up to date and our playgrounds were up to date. So we have reverse the order because originally we were going to be looking at updating the central office, but we are now going to be investing into supporting all of our playgrounds and to make sure that they are especially designed not only for our students, but more for our sensory. And we're working to make sure that they all kind of reflect the population of the students in the schools. So that is going to be put first, and we put the extended out another year, the central office remodel.
All right, are there any more questions?
Yeah, Kenny Edgar of Afton. I have a question on the staffing conditions on page 16. So can you explain to me what the reductions are? Are these people quitting, or are they getting fired, or how do you arrive to a 29.2 on the reductions on the 1 year?
Yeah, so one of the things that we had or that we're trying to write over the course of the last couple of years, we had several 0.2 or 0.4 or 0.5 positions that we reduced. But to answer your first question, these were all but 4 or 5 were all through attrition. The ones that weren't through attrition were due to the reduction from our full day program at North Tech to a half day program. And I want to say most of, I think only one of those was, I think everybody found a job with the exception of one from there within our district. So we get to the point 2 because we had several point 2, point 3, point 4 positions that we right-sized. We either reduced it to 0 through attrition, or we were able to make it into a full-time position. And you'll see that as we go. But for the majority of these positions, and every one of the positions for this year are through attrition that we're reducing.
Thank you.
Right, are we ready to move on?
I'm sorry,
Last
this is
call.
Debbie Happer. I have one more question. On the budget, revised FY22. So are you actually projecting a loss for the year? I don't see like a grand total here, so I'm just trying to figure it out on my own.
Which page are you on?
Well, I guess I would be on, I'm looking over on the revised budget document also, but I guess this would be up where I see revenue by source, so page 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then page 7. And do I understand you correctly when you were reviewing page 5, budget FY22, you said that total revenue number is actually going to come closer to 469 rather than the 483?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then the expenditures are over 500 million.
Yeah, the expenditures aren't going to be that high. We know there is some room in the budget where we projected conservatively to make sure we had enough. One, with us being self-funded, we'll always add in enough to make sure that we can cover insurance in case there are any additions that way. But as you can see, just on the fringe benefits, we know there was 102 million in FY20, 101 million in FY21, and it's a budget of 112. We probably won't get there. We probably won't get to the number or the amount in supplies. So that is a conservative projected budget. That 503 is probably high. What we're projecting right now, and I just ran these this afternoon, so that's why I'm looking at the computer here. We're looking at probably, I took out capital. So we're looking at revenues and expenditures probably in that same realm of one another. So we approved a deficit spend, the board approved a deficit spend for the year, but we're looking at revenues and expenditures coming in more or less equal throughout the year. Unless something changes, we're going to be in that general ballpark.
And then what does that do to your fund balance?
So our fund balance, it will actually lower it for 2 reasons. One, we are spending more and then revenues coming down. So we won't have the same total revenues that we do. But as you guys know, you take your total revenue and you add it to your beginning balance, and then you subtract out your expenditures for the year. That gets you your remaining balance. And then you divide that by your expenditures. So not only are we expending more this year, but our expenditures will go up. So that becomes a bigger number that we're dividing by. So that will actually lower our fund balance. And we're projecting it lowers it 4 or 5%.
Thank you.
All right, I think we are ready to move on to item 7.01, which is approval of the revised FY22 budget adjustments. Dr. Hogg again.
Yeah, you've already seen these. We brought this to our board in November, and then we brought it to the governing council December 6th. We then brought it back to our board for approval in December, and we're bringing it back to you for final approval now.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the FY22 revised budget?
So moved.
This is Veronica
Kenny.
Memorial, second.
All right, so we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion or questions? All right, Those in favor say aye.
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 And any against, nay. All right, motion approved. All right, if we could keep, we're going to move on to item 8.01, our SSD board elections. And I'd like to, are all the candidates in here currently? I don't know who's in charge of the Zoom list. I just wanted to go kind of over the procedures and then put candidates in the waiting room. That way we only have to do that one time instead of twice.
All candidates should be on.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we will be voting on board candidates for 2 subdistricts this evening. Subdistrict 3, which is Parkway, and Subdistrict 4, which covers Ferguson Florissant, Pattonville, and Riverview Gardens. Both of these are 3-year terms. All of our governing council members have received packets electronically and were asked to submit interview questions prior to this meeting. Because we are meeting virtually, we will interview and then vote on candidates by subdistrict. So candidates from the subdistricts not being interviewed will be in the meeting's waiting room and will be admitted into this meeting again when we are interviewing and voting for their subdistrict. When it's time to vote, each governing council member gets 1 vote per candidate per subdistrict. And you may only vote in the affirmative for 1 candidate per subdistrict. You may vote in the negative for as many candidates if you want. So a candidate must receive 12 votes and must also receive a majority of the weighted county population as determined by the Census Bureau. And Rita has the program to do those calculations. All right, so we will begin with subdistricts 3. So if subdistrict 4 candidates can be put in the waiting room.
Okay.
Okay, I think I saw some people. I saw my screen change, so I'm assuming they're gone. We will start, so Parkway, Subdistrict 3 with Miss Katie Patroff. And if she would like to give an opening statement for about 3 minutes. Keisha, would you mind being a timekeeper? Do you have your phone handy? Okay, so we'll do 3 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes per question, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. All right, so Miss Petroff.
Hi, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me.
I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, esteemed members of the Governing Council. My name is Katie Patroff. I live in the Parkway School District, have 2 children, one who goes to Parkway West Middle School, and one who goes to New Warner High School, and I'm the current Vice President of the Special School District School Board. Here's some information about myself. I was born and raised in the Chicagoland area, graduated from Illinois Wesleyan University, got married, moved to Palatine, Illinois, and had 2 children. We moved to Chesterfield in the fall of 2014 to be closer to my husband's family and specifically for the special school district. By 2014, my son Tommy was entering 2nd grade and had nothing but hardships in the school system in Illinois. My son has many diagnoses, including autism. My mother-in-law, who used to work at Highcroft Elementary School, had nothing but amazing things to say about special school district. We knew it would be the perfect fit for Tommy, so we moved. He went straight to Litzinger, and we started our SSD journey. Over the past 7.5 years, our family has been so grateful for SSD and all the guidance and support they've given Tommy. From all his teachers, paras, social workers, nurses, even the librarian who spoils him. It truly takes a village, and I'm so glad we found ours. During the school year of 2018 and 19, there was an opening for the Subdistrict 3 seat on the board. I was asked and encouraged to run for the seat by some stakeholders, and it was one of the best decisions I've made. Being on the board has given me the opportunity to learn all the ins and outs about how the district works, to hear from staff and students and stakeholders on all sorts of issues, and stand up for what I think is right for all those involved. Over the past 3 years, I've been a part of many positive changes in SSD, including the hiring and working side by side with Dr. Keenan, changes to finances with the zero-based budgeting, and making impressive changes with the equity under the incredible guidance of Dr. Macklin. If given the opportunity, I hope to continue representing Subdistrict 3 on the Special School District School Board for another term, if not many more. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. We have 3 questions this evening.
Okay.
The first one is, as a board director representing a partner district, how will you, or how do you already strengthen the partnership planning process?
The partnership planning process, I'm
So
understanding.
how do you collaborate? How do you make sure that partnership agreement is kind of upheld between the two districts, things like that?
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying. Well, first of all, I go over everything with Dr. Keenan about what Parkway's budget is, Parkway's teacher requests, para requests, all their staff requests, any changes to that, needing to go to any schooling. I also work with any parent requests that come in that send emails to us. We work with them. And yeah, as issues come up, I try to address them as they come up.
Great. Okay. Our next question is, what is your plan for the SSD board to monitor SSD strategic plan?
The strategic plan. It's very, very important. It's between that and the CSIP, they kind of govern everything we do. The strategic plan we are making with, goodness, can you tell I'm nervous? Sorry about that. To follow everything under it, whether it's equity, staffing, and then working with the people involved, Molly Bolton, Wendy Pendergrass, to make sure it is comprehensive for the whole district, that it works for the whole district, and yet it's not overworded like I'm doing right now. So we can follow it to make sure the district works as well as possible.
Okay, thank you. And you're doing a great job. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
this
My
question, I know it's nerve-wracking. So this question is kind of long, so if you need me to repeat it, I will. Okay, so staffing is a challenge for some school districts right now. So as a board member, how should the board support attracting and retaining teachers, paras, and related service providers to maintain staffing level and implementation of services?
I 100% agree. Staffing is most important, because without a healthy teacher and para ratio for our kids, there isn't much. So you start with salary, making sure base salary and raises are respectful. So working very closely with the union side by side. For paras especially, making sure that they have a good wage, considering a lot of our paras come in and then move up in the system. We want to make sure that they're taken care of even at the para level, making sure they have healthy benefits for health insurance, sick days, PTO, all that's good stuff. And then from onboarding, you have to make sure that they come in and are given a wonderful introduction to SSD in the onboarding process. For paras, we have a new person, Mr. Har, who's in charge of teaching them all the ins and outs of SSD, mentoring programs so they can be partnered with somebody who's been in the district, and especially if not in their own school, in their own partner district, if they're not in an SSD school. So someone who really knows the ins and outs of that district, and partners with that mentor so they have someone to ask questions to as they start their first year. And then keeping them, making sure it stays respectful, making sure that their raises are respectful, making sure professional development days are there to help them along on learning new things, to keep a curriculum, equity, all of that. Yeah, and then showing appreciation also is very important. So this year we had added in November a mental health day, because with COVID and the pandemic, it was very much needed. And going forward, we will add in a fall break day, just so they have that extra day in the fall to just just relax and
Okay.
regenerate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the governing council members, we only had 3 questions submitted. I can pull some old questions, or we can move to closing statements if you feel ready. Thumbs up to move on. Thumbs up. Okay, so if you would like to give your closing statement.
Okay, well, I just wanted to thank everyone for their time tonight. Again, I'm very, very thankful and proud to have served on the board for 3 years, and look forward to hopefully serving for another 3 and even more than that. That'd be wonderful. Like I said, my son is a freshman at New Warner, so I very much like being a part of the behind the scenes and supporting him and students like him while he's in school and hopefully even after he graduates. I appreciate all of your time and your dedication to overseeing SSD and the checks and balances, making sure we do what's right. Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. I know this is, getting all these questions is nerve-wracking. So we will move on. Would anyone like to make a motion?
This is Debbie Hopper from Parkway. I would make a motion to approve Mrs. Potroff as the SSD Board of Director for the Parkway Subdistrict.
And this is Larry Felton. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Any discussion or questions? All right, then we will go to the roll call vote. Ms. Morrow Reel, are you doing it or is Rita? I'm sorry, I should check before we
I did create an extra ballot to do so. I can, and she can. That way we have like 2, okay?
Works for me.
Okay. Afton,
Yes.
Bailiff,
Yes.
Brentwood,
Yes.
Clayton,
Yes.
Ferguson Florissant,
Yes.
Hancock Place,
Yes.
Hazelwood,
Yes.
Jennings,
Yes.
Kirkwood,
Yes.
Ledoux,
Yes.
Lindbergh,
Yes.
Maplewood Richmond Heights,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
Normandy, Parkway,
Yes.
Pattonville,
Yes.
Rittner, is the young lady still on representing Rittner? Riverview Gardens, yes. Rockwood,
Yes.
University City,
Yes.
Valley Park,
Yes.
and Webster Groves.
Yes.
Is the person on for, was it Rittner? Penny, is she still on?
I'm
See
looking.
her on the list.
Okay. Well, we still have enough, that's the only.
She is on.
Oh, okay. Is she voting on their behalf or no?
I think she said she was just listening tonight.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, okay, well, Rita, I'm going to assume we have over 50% of the census population and more than 12 votes. So
Yes.
congratulations, Ms. Petroff.
Thank you so much.
All right, and then you can probably stay on the meeting since you've already heard the questions, and we will let in Ms. Constance Harge and Mr. Scott for Subdistrict 4. Oh, I'm sorry, it was on a separate line, Mr. Mueller.
They are both back in.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Mr. Mueller and Ms. Harge, we will begin with 3 minutes for your opening statement. And then we have a few questions and we will round robin. We'll start with Mr. Mueller and then Ms. Harge will answer and we'll switch for the second question. And then you will also have 2 minutes for a closing statement. So we will begin with opening statements and Mr. Mueller will go first in 3 minutes.
Thank you. It's Mr. Moeller.
I'm sorry, I'll
it's
write
all
it
good.
down.
It's all good. Good evening, everyone. To begin, I first want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to reintroduce myself and share why I believe I have made and want to continue making a valuable contribution to SSD. The challenge of being of optimal service to the kids and families of Riverview Gardens, Ferguson, Florissant, and Pattonville has been a tremendous honor and a job to which I vow my continued best effort. Last year, I had a chance to articulate my why towards filling this important role. I expressed my belief in improving and replicating the magic of trusting relationships between student and teacher. As a veteran teacher, I mentioned that when staff are heard and respected, mutual reward grows. Students and families get more engaged and communities excel. I still hold this as a core belief. I do feel proud of the contributions I have made towards several board decisions this past year. It is my hope that you, dear governing council members, have already noticed. The goal of bringing out the best in our learning communities is one I take continued interest in. On those lines, this organization's goal of embedding equitable support and opportunities for achievement for all is more than just a lofty vision. It's a path that takes lots of work. Lots of challenging conversations have taken place and need to continue. Discomfort has been embraced and needs to continue. Obviously, no single person as administrator, teacher, paraprofessional, or support staff member, or for that matter, board director, is going to nail it one day and parade off to the sunset. This is obviously an ongoing, ever-evolving mission. I would be honored to be selected again to do my small part in it. Working towards building our systems of equity, evaluation, and accountability for all role players in all parts of our region is so darn important. When one rightfully considers how SSD serves as connective tissue between our different neighborhoods and schools towards expanding opportunities for all and encouraging regional economic growth through the development of human capital, it clearly deserves our heightened focus and energies. As I'd mentioned previously, my why had been focused mostly on our student-teacher relationships. It has been a great thrill to work with fellow board members and interact with high-quality administrators and staff here at SSD towards that end. What I was not prepared for was getting a handle on how many additional important parts and roles are being filled to make this organization go. So much goes into each positive interaction between teacher and students and to make each school day successful. It is an amazing and remarkable thing to both contemplate and be associated with. My experiences on this board have only confirmed my impression that SSD is in the unique position of having the resources and reach to be even more of a force for good in the region than it already is. To be included on the board and at the table for SSD operations and ongoing problem solving, I vow my continued best efforts and creativity towards helping SSD connect with students and families, respect teachers and staff, and bring out our best as an extended school community.
All right, thank you. And we will move on to Ms. Harge in her opening statement. Ms. Harge, I don't know if maybe you're still on mute, but we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Keenan and Governing Council. I'm Connie Harge, candidate for the Special School District Board. I've lived in St. Louis County for 50 years, 29 of those years in Florissant, married 46 years with 2 children. I served on the Ferguson Florissant School Board for 3 years, 1 year as a secretary. I was also on the SSD committee. I have advanced and master board certification with the MSBA. I served as a delegate for 3 years with the MSBA. I helped open the STEAM school on Dunn Road in 2017-2018 school year. I served on the Ferguson Youth Initiative Board and was appointed for the Florissant Youth Advisory Board by Mayor Tim Lowry. I'm very advocate for our children. That's the #1 priority. Our teachers, keeping our teachers and students safe. I want to make sure to work with the board, working together, making a difference for better education and brighter future for our children. It's important to get them ready. All of them will be learning different, but I feel like it's our job to get them ready. We shouldn't let them fail. If they fail, it's on us, because it's important to us to get them ready for life and what's ahead. I feel also work with the parents, because some parents don't know what to do And I'd also like to work with parents to get them more involved. I feel that with the board, parents, teachers, and stakeholders, everybody working together, we can come together with a common ground, and that is for our children. That's number one. And another thing, to keep our children safe in school, and know the teachers that are very supported, and everyone has a voice, because everybody is not happy with what things are going on. And a lot of times they just want somebody to listen to them, any concerns that they have. So I'm very advocate for children. I feel all children are, even though they're not ours, they are ours. We adopt them all. And so I'm very committed to helping children. That's why I want to be on the board.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will move on to the first question, and we will start with Mr. Moeller. This question is, as a board member for SSD, while representing a partner district, how will you, or how do you already strengthen that planning process between partner district and SSD and strengthen that partnership?
Well, initially last year, I made a point to reach out to several individuals in the different partner districts, tried to make some contact. I believe I was the first board director last year, the first new board director to actually visit the different districts. Just introducing myself, trying to develop relationships. That's always the key, just getting familiar with people, regardless of where we're talking about. To develop a sense of trust is important, to make myself available, to definitely convey that I don't know it all. I don't know much, actually, and I try to ask people to inform me on what their needs are, what limitations they're facing, what's working, what's not working in any of those partner districts.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Harge, it's the same question. How will you strengthen that partnership and the planning process between SSD and the districts you represent?
Make sure that we keep our teachers, our stakeholders, and parents informed of everything that's going on. Like I say, it's trust and getting everybody involved, and let them know that they have a voice, and that we will listen to all the concerns that they have. Any concerns that they have, we should work on and get answers. We might not have the answer today, but we should work together to get an answer to them. If a parent calls with a problem, we bring it to the superintendent and the board president. We work on an answer to make sure that we follow up, to make sure that the parent was satisfied or did get an answer back. So just to make sure that everybody is on the same key and we all work together, because it's all about togetherness, and our number one priority is our children, and then to our teachers. But our children is the key, because we want to make sure that they get the right education. All of them are going to learn different, but we need to find out what skills they have, what do they need to bring them up to par, so that they get quality education and get something out of life.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to our next question, and we will start with Ms. Harge this time. So our second question is, what is your plan for the SSD board to monitor SSD's strategic plan?
To monitor strategic plan to see, is our policy up to par? Is there anything that we should update to make better in the policy, or things that we should take out? The safety, how is the safety for our schools, for students and teachers? Is our safety code up to par? Will we know what to do in case of say a shooter comes into our school or do anything? Do we know what to do? Also to work with the community and parents as well, because a lot of times the community feels they're not abreast on what's going on, and to keep everybody together to communicate. That's the most important thing too, is communication. And I feel that with that communication, that we can work out a plan, make sure we have the policy up to date, make sure everything's strategic planning. Everybody probably have a different group. I'm not sure how the SSD board works. On third floor board, everybody had a different strategic plan, but at the end, everybody came together on what should be done. The main thing is just to make sure everybody knows what's going on and we're not have anyone blindsided, or we're not trying to hide anything, and just keep the community abreast on everything.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mueller, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, it's not necessary. I think just paying close attention to decisions that are being made, making sure that everything lines up clearly and consistently with our strategic vision, our strategic plan, that we have integrity, that we have transparency throughout. I know we have had a increasing focus on equity as our goal, and I think that sums up what SSD is, supporting and assisting according to needs. So as a core principle or value, that's good. It gives us good guidance. And I think a couple administrators here would attest that I have advocated and will continue to do so. I know Dr. Keenan mentioned the playground decision that was made. I had some part in that. Also being on the employee engagement steering committee, and gathering from all the stakeholders how important it is to have clear, open, two-way communication throughout. Helps all stakeholders feel engaged and invested.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on to question 3. And Mr. Mueller, we'll start with you. So staffing has been a challenge for a lot of school districts recently. As a board member, how should the board support attracting and retaining teachers, paras, and related service providers to make sure we are maintaining staffing levels and implementation of services?
Well, we have to make sure staff feel valued, feel heard, feel supported. We are coming out of, I can personally attest to how challenging COVID has been in the classroom. I hear all the time how teachers have really have been at their last wits' ends trying to survive this year. I think the turn in weather and spring break around the corner have lightened things up a little bit, but still, there are a lot of challenges. A lot of teachers are in survival mode right now. And I think it's essential that we pay attention to what they're saying, to connect with what they're asking of SSD for support. And I can vow that as a board member, I will pay very close attention to how fellow teachers are feeling throughout.
Right, thank you. And Ms. Harge, you have the same question. Do you need me to read it again?
Yes.
All right, so staffing continues to be a challenge for some school districts. As a board director, how should the board support attracting and retaining teachers, paras, and related service providers to maintain staffing levels and the implementation of IEP services?
To attract great teachers.
How to retain and attract staff.
Okay. Okay, we have to make sure that we create good working conditions for our teachers and make them feel supported, and that they should be able to give feedback without letting them think that, oh, this is going to hurt me, I'll lose my job. etc. Give them time and resources, whatever they need, support, everything they need to be successful. That's what we should give them, resources and the tools. And the next thing, to retain the teachers, is to pay them salary. That would be good for them to work on, where they don't have to get a second job, to make sure that we're paying them adequately. And the parents, also getting the parents more involved and let them know that, you know, we do have great teachers. And it has been a challenge with the COVID and things that's going on. And the teachers, some teachers probably feel they're not doing what they should be doing. But I feel as long as we give them good support and listen to what they have to say, I feel they have a voice. Parents have a voice, and that should be our priority to keeping our number one teachers, due to the fact that we don't want to lose them, because that's, you know, that's hurting our students, and our students is number one to keep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, governing council members, do you feel like I need to ask a few more questions, or should we move on to closing statements? If you want a thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, saying thumbs up. Okay, so we will go to closing statements, and this time we will start with Ms. Harge.
Okay.
So you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Okay.
Pardon, may I ask
I'm sorry.
a quick question? I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt. I was informed in an email that we had 3 minutes. Is that not the case?
That's okay. If that was in an email,
okay.
we'll go
All
with that. That's all right.
okay.
Thank you
All
for
right, all right.
checking. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a proud parent of a child that was part of a special school district. And I feel that if it was not for the IEPs, the great teachers, he would not have went as far. I think he would have failed without the help. So I'm so grateful for special school district, and so grateful for the IEPs and the teachers that gave us support and that listened to our concerns. I was a youth soccer coach and, you know, mentoring coach as well for BJC. Had a mentor, got her at 14 years old. She had low self-esteem. Now she owns her own business. She has a BS degree and owns her own business. And I'm very passionate for children. I also was a Girl Scout leader for many, many years. And so a lot of them came from broken homes, and it's always good to have somebody to lean on that listens. And some of them were part of a special school district. And I have some friends now, their children in special school district, and they were worried at first, but now they're so grateful for things that are going for them. And I was supported also by Beth Wachowski, but from the FFNEA. Also, she's also a school teacher. I'm supported from other Dr. Donna Thurman for the First Floor School District, Dr. Rob Chabot he's a former school district, and Dr. Joe Davis from the Ferguson Florissant District. I'm very advocate for children. I don't have a lot of education. I went to school somewhat in Washington University, but I'm very, very passionate for children. And I just want all children to make it. And the equity and equality, I want to say children of color, and especially in the North County, are doing less than the other children. And we must find some way to get them to be up par. I think that has been a challenge. Parents feel that, you know, they're failing their kids. So I think all children, it doesn't matter where they come from, their background, I think we should attain to their needs. IEP should be needs for each child. So that is, you know, what I think. And I feel Dr. Keenan, I heard she's a great superintendent, and I would love to work with her. And I heard that the SSD board is dynamic board. And I feel us working together would make a difference for a brighter future for our children. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then Mr. Moeller.
Thank you. Having shared my why and a few reflections of my contributions thus far with SSD, I would like to summarize the positives and outline a sense of need areas I believe I can still help with. And I share these things with full acknowledgement of the difficult choice I'm certain this will be. Ms. Harge seems to be a highly qualified candidate with character-telling devotion to public service. After this election, regardless of the outcome, I hope we can soon call each other collaborative friends, sharing mutual interest in the futures of our kiddos. I do believe my voice has contributed to positive improvements within the district towards more equitable support of students and staff, particularly in the more distressed parts of our community. Saying that, I'm averse to the idea of standing here and touting individual accomplishments that I know are a team effort. As many in this organization understand, the best problem solving in the future cannot be transmitted from a central office. It will only occur when all the individuals involved feel heard, respected, and appreciated. Only then can we make real progress. What will I continue to bring to the community table? I have plenty of energy and some ideas towards SSD's continued building of supports for our students, improving benefits and incentives to maximize hiring of qualified staff, particularly our paraprofessionals, keeping employees engaged with strong two-way communication, and improving opportunities for professional growth to boost our retention rates. Lastly, if the ideas of building an SSD phone app come to fruition, according to our recent Employee Engagement Steering Committee discussions, I believe an important opportunity opens up. I can envision how customer service features on a phone app can better address student learning loss and vital family needs that have ticked upwards since COVID-19. While I don't believe SSD needs to add more to its already very full plate of responsibilities, I believe it can, without a shift of mission, improve engagement with families by streamlining referral and guidance towards not only our own services, but to other regional providers for individual and family counseling, legal services, food banks, tutoring, and other health resources. After all, phone app or not, we all know getting one's basic needs met and being in a safe place are prerequisites for any type of meaningful learning in a classroom setting. I believe these initiatives will enhance the good that's happening in our classrooms and schools. My energy along these lines will be guaranteed. My ideas, well, they'll still just be ideas for discussion. I know the only chance they will be great is good or great is if when they are presented, hashed out, and then blended with the best insights from members of our diverse community. So regardless of how the council decides to go with this choice, I want to reinforce that I have no intention of slowing down my advocacy for kids. If not with SSD, it will be elsewhere. Again, considering the resources and reach of this remarkable district, there's no other force for good team with whom I'd rather be.
All right, thank you very much. All right, governing council members, is anyone ready to make a motion? We have Mr. Scott Mueller and Ms. Constance Harge tonight.
So
For
moved.
Subdistrict 4. For who? Who is your motion for?
For the vote?
Yes,
Don't we have
like
to
are
vote
you
for
making,
both?
you need to make a motion for one of them to be appointed for the Subdistrict 4 position.
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Mueller.
Moeller.
And I'll second.
Mueller, I'm sorry.
So we have a motion to appoint Mr. Scott Mueller, and we have a second
Yes.
by Mr. Felton. Okay, and then we'll do our roll call vote.
Okay. Afton,
No.
Bayless,
Yes.
Brentwood,
Yes.
Clayton,
Yes.
Ferg Florissant,
Yes.
Hancock Place,
Yes.
Hazelwood,
Yes.
Jennings. Jennings,
Yes. Yes.
Kirkwood,
No.
Ledoux,
Yes.
Lindbergh,
Yes.
Maplewood, Richmond Heights,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
Normandy, Parkway,
Yes.
Pattonville,
Yes.
Rittner, Riverview Gardens, no. Rockwood,
Yes.
University City,
Yes.
Valley Park,
Yes.
and Webster Grove.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Rita,
Looks like he has the most votes.
Rita, are we good with, I know we have 12, I'm assuming we have the population.
7, 8, 9.
Sorry, I was on mute. He has 17 yes votes with a population of 810,731.
Okay, thank you. So then I'm assuming that motion passes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so congratulations, Mr. Mulder. And Ms. Harge, I just want to thank you for applying for the position. It's really great to see more people come out and want to be a part of the Special School District Board of Education.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey.
All right. We are going to move on to item 9.01, calendar of events. You can find that in board docs as their list of upcoming governing council meetings and tentative agenda topics. Item 10, announcements. The district does not have any this evening, but do any council members have anything?
I would just add, if any of the council members have any possible recommendations to add to the PRC, that you email either me or Larry Felton, so we can make sure that your concerns are added as well. It's just part of the reason why we presented on tonight.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, I think we are ready for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and I'm assuming we don't have any discussion, but last chance for questions. All right, those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And those against? All right, motion passes. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.